Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We are in the council chambers room today instead of the finance committee. We are being televised, but I understand we're on a new system now, so it's a little more formal, and we honestly, I think, like the less formal idea of committee. But at any rate, if you would like to speak today, we would ask that you join us at the podium and give, of course, your name and address for the record. I don't see anyone that has signed up, but please, if something changes, if you'll just let us know. With that, committee members, let me just mention, Councilmember Light is out of the country today and will not be joining us. But we do have our other members of finance and the mayor, and we thank you all for being here. Without objection, we'll take the consent items first. Are there any items in consent that anyone would like to have pulled?
C1 and C4A.
C1 and 4A.
Madam, if no more to be pulled, I move for the approval of the remaining items.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll go first to consent item C1.
Item C1, resolution accepting offer from North Carolina Baptist Hospital, property located at 121 Polo Road.
Robert?
First off, Lee, welcome back.
Thank you.
Hope the beach was nice. Listen, on this building, I guess I'm just looking for a few comments on, do you think this is something we will use or sell or I was expecting an old dilapidated building, but we got the pictures. This is a pretty nice building, it seems like.
Thank you, Councilor Clark. We are actually going to talk about it at the Public Safety Committee in general about the two chief of police and chief of fire's vision for public safety facilities. We do think that this facility may have the opportunity to be used for public safety uses.
Okay, yeah, because this is certainly usually aren't given something this nice. So I would certainly suggest we take a hard look at if we can use it. That's the only question.
All right.
Oh,
I have
Go ahead.
I have a question. Is there any cost associated for accepting this as a gift, Lee?
The only cost I'm aware of is that, we will, two things. Well, in this case, I don't believe they're paying taxes. There's not any property taxes currently being paid, but we will assume the operating cost, the maintenance of the facility, mowing, that type of thing.
Okay. And I was confused on sort, so I guess if you could just, because I guess I thought that was part of a City of Winston-Salem department. Am I correct in, that was started by Baptist Hospital, wasn't it? Or give us some background on that, so.
I may ask
folks will-
Mr. Page to give us a little more detail
Okay.
about SORT.
SORT is a Special Operations Response Team, and they're made up of multiple agencies. And what they're actually doing is they are relocating to another facility that's being provided to them, space by Baptist Hospital. So they're moving into a different space and then making this space available to Baptist Hospital.
And who are the different entities that participate in SORT?
I'd have to get a list of those agencies for you.
Okay.
And I can do that
You
for
will.
you.
Okay. Councilmember Burke?
They've been operating for quite a few years up there, but I will say this to follow up to make sure when you ask the city manager the question, do we need excess buildings? We have stated that we do not need them if they are just buildings. Recently, Piedmont Federal Savings gave right clear out a building to Urban League. And when they gave that building to Urban League, they made sure that some of the repairs that need to be repaired, we talked with the city through the chairman, finance, and you assured us we didn't want another building. Some years back, Wachovia gave us a building, and we've used that building still as a community outreach government center, one of the first around the country, and especially in the southeastern part of this country. And this Piedmont Federal Savings building is now Urban League's building, and they're using it to the fullest. So Madam Chairman, I would like to make sure that when it does come, we'll be talking about it a little bit further, that we're answering these questions that you want to have answered.
In public safety. Okay, Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, and I think these are really good questions that we have, but I think the thing we don't want to forget is to say thank you to North Carolina Baptist Hospital and the Medical Center for making this donation. When we went, Councilmember Burke and Mercer and I went to meet with Dr. McConnell and talk about Sunday bus service, We indicated that cash was going to be a difficult thing at that time, but we're looking for other ways that could help the city with some of its operating costs or other issues, and so this was one of those ideas. So certainly, I know we're all grateful for this gift.
And there are representatives in the audience of
Yeah.
the hospital?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
There.
We appreciate the thought. Thank you, sir.
Madam Chairman, in addition to, the city manager did respond to the question about the ongoing operating expenses. However, don't want you to be fooled that if we decide to use this facility for public safety purposes, there would be some costs. We don't know what the costs are yet, but there would be some costs associated with the upgrade of the facility to meet the seismic building codes.
But public safety is going to address that as
Right.
part of their long-term
Yep.
needs and the chief's recommendation. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Not, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Going to consent item 4A. Robert?
Item C4A, resolution awarding purchase order for self-contained breathing apparatus equipment.
Jerry, come on up. What piqued my interest here, we're getting ready to spend almost $700,000 because something is out of warranty.
That's correct.
Now, most everything I own in my life is out of warranty. That doesn't mean it's no good. So I guess I hope we have a better reason than that. I mean,
Well, Chief Carter's not here tonight, and I was hoping he'd be here to explain that in more detail. But what I can tell you is that we have regulations that will expire by 2015. So what we have chosen to do, we are actually, based on what Chief Carter has informed me, that we have several units that we're using today that have, as it's stated, is outside of the warranty. It doesn't meet the current regulations. So we have been working with budget over the last 2 years to spread these replacements out. So the intent is to purchase half this year at the $600,000 amount, and then the other half. So we, in fiscal 15, so we would be in complete compliance with the regulations. So in reality, right now, we are using units that do not meet those regulations. We're just trying to jump on it right now.
is that a legal regulation?
It is.
By whom?
I say rating.
I see the National Fire Protection Association listed in here.
I think that's the agency.
That is the,
Was that a private?
No, it's a governmental agency, state, federal.
I guess I'd like a little more information on it. I mean-
We'll get you that Thursday.
Okay.
We'll get you
Thank
that.
Any other questions, Mr. Bates, on this one?
No, since he doesn't have, he needs information from someone else, so I think city will have to do it, what he needs.
What's the pleasure of the committee? You want to hold this?
Let's hold it until we
Okay.
get more.
All right, I think everyone's in agreement that we'll hold this item in committee pending additional information on the regulations and requirements. Okay, all right, thank you. With that, we're going to the general agenda.
Item G1, resolution authorizing economic development assistance to Wake Forest University Health Sciences for the expansion of Wake Forest Innovation Quarter.
Mr. Page?
Yes, ma'am. This item is a request from Wake Forest University Health Sciences and their business partner Wexford to provide assistance totaling $4 million. The $4 million would be used to reimburse them for the development of certain public infrastructure improvements, as well as the development of a 300 to 400 space parking deck. Wake Forest University and Wexford would develop a 230,000 square foot building that's located at the northeast corner of 5th and Vine Street, and the project has an estimated investment cost of $90.9 million. In return, the developers would receive an incentive that would be equal to 65% of the net new taxes generated by the property each year. The property would be taxable not only for the initial period of the incentive grant, which is estimated to be 18 years, but also for 20 additional years beyond the expiration of the incentive grant. So roughly, the project would pay about $300,000 to $400,000 per year in new city property taxes, and the developers would receive a grant equal to about $195,000 to $245,000 per year. It just varies by year over that 18-year period. The project would also create 450 jobs in the park. Of those 450 jobs, 50 of them would be new jobs. At least the other 300 plus would be a combination of jobs that are relocated into the park by Wake Forest University, as well as there'll be speculative space in the building. Approximately 40% of the space will be speculative space for private sector entities to move into the park. A couple things that have been questioned by the council in various settings, things such as the company's commitment to hire local. What the company will say is that they currently, or what the developers are committing to, is that at least 50% of the contractors in the project will be local contractors. Based on what they've been able to do with their other projects, they feel that 50% is an attainable number. In addition, MWBE participation has been questioned by several council members, and they also are agreeing to a goal of at least 10% MWBE participation, which in essence matches the city's goals for MWBE participation on projects. So they are agreeable to both 50% local and 10% MWBE goals on the project. The developers are here, representatives are here from Wake Forest Innovation Quarters. I think there may be some other questions that you all may have, but I'll stop there and sort of answer your questions, as well as they have representatives here that can answer questions as well.
Okay, question?
Dirk, I'm trying to remember the last time we talked about this, there was some discussion about the land that is being freed up by not having to put in surface parking would also be taxable.
That is
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, sir, that is correct. During the period of the incentive grant, that property also would have to be developed for taxable purposes if it's developed.
And that's in this,
That is a special condition.
okay, thank you. That's all.
Madam, I will not be voting on this afternoon. It's not that I'm against this project. I've said on more than one occasion, what Wake Forest is doing downtown is commendable. They are creating a very positive atmosphere. It looks good, and we appreciate the jobs, and we do see people working, contractors who are working down there to do some of the things that they're doing. I will just hold my vote until Monday, because there had been some questions that some of the people had, and if all these questions are answered, then I will be ready to vote on Monday. I think one concern would be, I think we talked about the economic impact that it will make. And we know Wake Forest is generating revenue with housing and with whatever they do that they need. But I would prefer to wait. And I don't want anyone to leave here thinking that I'm against this project. I am not against this project.
Okay.
I believe in economic development and job creation.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, Derwick, as we've talked about kind of in the deal. It's listed as, in various places, expect to invest an estimated $90.9 million. I believe in the project and assistant description, it says estimated. Everywhere throughout, it's an estimated $90.9 million. Guess I'd like to see that as a minimum. If we look at a 1% plus or minus, take that from estimated $90.9 million to a minimum of $90 million incorporated into the document. Question on, and this goes back to our Dale days. It's not meant to reflect on Innovation Quarter at all, but I remember we had a difficult time in getting the true employment numbers of badged and others. So how are we going to, number one, verify the beginning employment number so we can track the increase in personnel in the area and ensure that we're meeting the minimum of new jobs created? And I think you have a,
Employers in the state actually have to submit to the Employment Security Commission on a quarterly basis a form that shows the wage rates and employee benefits. It's called the NCUI 101 form. What we would get from Wake Forest would be that form for those people that are located in this property. So it would be specific to, here's the information on the employees that are currently working in this property.
okay. Because again, I believe in the Dale deal, there was some concern about proprietary information as far as their being competitive. And also in a scheduling, because of the way the incentives, I just don't want that to happen again. Okay, then the other question is, in the agreement, I'm sorry, they list, special conditions on page 5, the relocation or creation of certain number of jobs within 5 years of receipt of the first disbursement of the city funds. So that's 5 years after the first payment. The first payment is a year after, right? So doesn't that put that out to 6?
Yes.
So how did we arrive at the 5? And would it be a significant impact to look at bringing that back to 3, which would really be 4?
We came to 5 based upon the projected business model that was provided to us. I can look back to Mr. Tomlinson or Ms. Pavel to see if 3 is a number that works for them, but 5 was based upon the business model that they provided us, just based upon, they don't know exactly what those employment numbers are going to look like in the future.
Right,
So they're
right.
trying to be
I
conservative.
understand. Okay, so if we can hold that as a question, because I think I may have more. In the document, it lists Wake Forest University Health Sciences and Wexford in other conditions, and it specifies in the event of default, Wake Forest University Health Sciences and Wexford will work closely. We incorporate that into all of our deals, so that's nothing specific to Wake Forest or Wexford. But my question is, is there not a third entity here, that being Wake Forest Innovation Quarter? Is that a wholly owned subsidiary, or should they not be on the hook, as it were, along with Wexford and Health Sciences?
I believe Mr. Thompson is shaking his head that it is a wholly owned subsidiary.
Okay, so we can have that into the minutes that we were advised it was a wholly owned subsidiary. And I'll just admit that I'm being hard-headed on this one. But on page 7, total projected tax revenue created, under number of jobs created, it says of these jobs, there would be 50 new jobs created. And I believe back on page 5, it says at least 50 jobs will be newly created with a minimum starting salary of at least $20,000. I'm going to ask the city attorney. And I know that the district or the quarter is going to have every job grade imaginable. So there are going to be researchers and staffers and support staff, you know, hopefully in that creation of the job creation or relocation. But from a legal standpoint, is the document saying that they're going to create a minimum of 50 jobs at a minimum of $20,000? Is that the legal interpretation of that condition?
Yes, and in the actual economic development agreement, that's how the language will be phrased, at a minimum.
that's slightly above a living wage, and I know I'm on thin ice here, in as much as the city has, unfortunately, some employees that are below the living wage, but we're not taking those employees' tax dollars and putting it over into another workforce. I think that we should look at making that, tightening that up, and increasing that minimum of at least 26,000. That's somewhere between a living wage for a single person and a living wage for a single person with a child. Living wage, and I had it, oh. 38. Yeah, thank you. So, living wage, one adult is 18.2. One adult, one child is 38.7. I think 26 would be closer to something that we'd want to be the definitive minimum. And again, I know that that's going to be kind of an average. Well, no, it's not.
It's the minimum. If you say the
The
minimum.
city attorney
it's the
just
minimum.
told me.
Minimum.
Okay, so that's the legal definition.
It's the
Okay.
minimum.
Robert?
Offer.
Sure.
First off, Ms. Mercer, I don't know if we answered one, do you want Innovative Quarters as a wholly owned subsidiary to also be listed as a party?
I don't think they have, do they have value as a wholly owned subsidiary? Do they need to be part of it?
No.
We can check and see. I don't know the answer to that question, but
Okay.
we'll have one Thursday.
Okay.
And the second one, I think maybe what you're, to bounce off this living wage issue, there is a difference between a minimum wage and an average.
Mm-hmm, right.
And I certainly think a $20,000 minimum is a pretty, I think Wake Forest is stepping up with that number. The city certainly couldn't do that. We have a significant number of employees that are below that. That's $10 an hour, roughly, almost 10.
870.
No.
It's
877 is just 18 too, so it's,
725.
but to make 20, here it is, to make 20,000 a year, you gotta have 961 is the hourly rate. There's 20,080 hours, 2,080 hours per year, if you work 52 weeks. But it may be this is something we need to chat with Wake Forest about, if it would be comfortable putting in also an average number. Because there are gonna be jobs from all walks, and I am concerned if you put a minimum in at 26, you could well eliminate some jobs, and they may have to contract them out or something.
You want us to have an offline conversation with Forest about that now? You want them to answer now?
Well, let me just fill in, because we also had a request from Councilmember Light, who is out of country today and next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And she had asked that we keep this item in committee pending her return.
Okay.
I think, given the fact that we've been working on this for some time, that she would be agreeable and would have ample time to express any of her questions if we would be agreeable to putting this on the first meeting in September, not holding it in committee, but that would allow Councilmember Light some time and allow staff to look at any questions that we might raise here today. Is that agreeable with the committee?
That's just 2 weeks.
No, yeah,
I
But it
talked
gets
to
her
Councilman
back.
Light. She's good.
okay.
Could we ask if that's okay? Wait, we're saying it will go to the September the 2nd?
Third.
Third, excuse me.
Second's the holiday.
Tuesday.
And it might be good to follow up with them privately on the
Okay.
average wage.
I will.
Okay. Okay,
I don't know how time sensitive this is, but.
okay. Well, I think that's trying to be sensitive to both the Vice Chair of Finance and
Yeah.
the hospital. So I think that's fair. Councilmember Burke?
I was going to say, you brought up the information concerning Dell. We have made mistakes in dealing with companies. And I think when a city is going to engage conversations with business people, as I've said before, we need to make sure that they understand this city, we are giving incentives. And even though we work with Dell, and I was one of the most forward ones to talk about what I thought Dell needed to do, and the mayor appointed a committee. There were 3 of us, Deborah Conrad from the county and Gail Anderson from the chamber. and we were not totally satisfied, but when we make these mistakes, we're giving taxpayers dollars, we need to do better the next go-round. And I think, as we've said as a council, I heard you say we give a certain salary, but we would encourage private businesses to do better than what we're doing. And also, Mr. City Manager, whenever we are having someone to come in to talk to us, and we talk as if though they're not here, I think the people from Wake Forest Innovations, the person should come up, introduce themselves, let us know who they are. We know some of us, but I think the taxpayers out there need to know who we're talking with, because Mr. Page will talk from his communication with them and what we direct him in our various meetings, but we don't get to see. We've met Dr. Thomason before, but I think he needs to come up and folks know who's accountable and how we're going to do this. One other thing, we said that we are not ready, this city, prepared. And we said, a group of us, that we think that we need to get prepared. I introduced something called a consortium of colleges and universities, where these presidents and representatives will be made aware of the job needs for this community, so when these companies come, that they can be prepared. And we have all this innovation, all these universities and colleges, and we can't meet the need of companies, which I think we ought to be meeting the needs of them. And we're going to start back again with that consortium of people so they can hear clearly what we expect and what they can expect from us about job opportunities. So, Madam Chair, may Dr. Thomason just introduce himself so folks know who
Absolutely,
we're
would be
talking about?
delighted. And Judith, if you'd like to
And-
come up and
yeah.
introduce yourself?
They are working hard. They're very positive
They
people.
are.
And we appreciate their communications with us.
Well, thanks for inviting the duo act up here.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here. We've obviously met several of you separately and collectively. We've attended many of these committee meetings and council meetings, and pleased to do so and to continue to do so. We also have engagement with the city through Dr. McConnell and other members of the university and the medical center.
I'm Judith Burrell, and I'm the liaison for public outreach for Innovation Quarter for the Medical Center and the university. And I'm here to help and make sure that the avenues of communication are broadened and that the questions are answered and that we figure out the answers to these questions together. And that's what my impetus is. And so we're pleased to be here today. So thank you.
I would like to add to that is that one of my responsibilities as president of the Innovation Quarter is to attract companies into this town. For example, today I've met with several prospective companies, as well as working on the design of a technology incubator that will be located actually inside of the building that we're talking about here today. So much of my role is to do with economic development.
And Councilmember Burke, if I could also add one thing. We had the SciTech program, which Innovation Quarter and the university has been affiliated with since its inception at Winston-Salem State. And this summer, they spent many hours at Innovation Quarter in the auditorium and in the conference rooms being addressed by some council members as well as business executives within the quarter. And so we are thinking about building that pipeline, and these were middle schoolers and high schoolers, and they were very engaged, I have to say. We were very excited to have them.
Thank you. And Dr. Thomason, we stopped being a town long time ago.
Oh, excuse
Big
me.
time city now.
You know, I come from London town as well, so excuse
Big
me.
time. We pride ourselves. We are growing, and it's
Of course
just
we are.
wonderful, and we
And
thank
I'm pleased
you.
to be here, although I do live in Pafftown.
Oh, you do? Poptown? Okay, all right.
Mayor?
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you all very much. I think the suggestions that the chairman has made are good ones and good strengthen the project there. I think it's important that we do clarify how this deal works. Some folks might think we're actually just taking tax dollars out of the budget and putting over into Wake Forest Innovation Quarter, but the way it works is Wake Forest is taking all the risk. They're going to borrow the money to build this deck. they're going to make a payment each year of property taxes on this $90 million minimum investment that the chairman has put in there, and we're going to return a portion of that to Wake Forest to help pay for the deck, along with the county has already approved a portion of that as well. If they don't make the payment, we don't make a payment,
Right.
so they are totally at risk. The other thing that I'm so pleased about is that they've guaranteed or committed that 50% of the project will go to local contractors and 10% to minority and women-owned companies, so that's very strong. Two other quick things is the fact that, as Councilmember Clark pointed out, they're also committed that this deck will free up space for future private development there, and it will be taxable private development, so this will be an ongoing investment. And then Mr. Page has done a great job of negotiating an additional 20 years of tax in addition to the original 18-year term. So the city's getting 38 years of property taxes minimum on this project. So it's an extraordinarily strong deal, and I congratulate Mr. Page and thank Dr. Thomason and the staff there for working hard on this to make it a, hate to use the word win-win, but it's definitely a win-win.
Thank you, and I guess I pride ourselves on, and I know there's some people going to say, what, has she lost her mind? But the Dale deal, that I think will be studied as far as clawback and reducing the city's exposure and citizens' exposure. I understand the deal, absolutely. I very much appreciate what the hospital and Innovation Quarter are willing to do. But at the end of the day, I just, as the mayor says, like to see some things that go from a possible to a required. And with that, there was just one more thing that I'd like for us to look at as we have those conversations. And that's on page 5. And it says if Wake Forest, blah, 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 ceases operations at the project location within the first 16 years, and it will reimburse the city at the percentages followed below. I guess I'd like to look and have conversations with the entities. At the reimbursement for years 1 through 5 would be 100%. Reimbursement in years 6 through 10 would be 75%. And reimbursement years 11 through 16 would be 60. So we're just moving up that reimbursement, which again was, I think, one of the critical things in the Dale deal.
Right. The Dale project was years 1 through 5 was 100%, so that's the reason we got back every penny we put into that one.
So if we could just look and have conversations with that. Could we just kind of recap for both, so I have an understanding, and staff, and Dr. Tomlinson, and Ms. Burrell, we are requesting that the minimum become 90 million. I think anybody have any questions about the verification of the beginning employee number? I think state verification on that.
I mean, it's a new building. Nobody lives in it now, right? Works in it now.
Yeah, but these are new or relocated, so
But I mean, if you want to know how many people work in it, that seems like a very easy number to get.
it should be, but,
Well, that's, yeah. That's going to be much tougher.
and we're going to look at the 5-year threshold for the job creation. We're going to look at Innovation Quarter being added to the agreement. Looking, or have a conversation of bumping that 50 job with a minimum of 20,000 to a minimum of 26,000. And look at the reimbursement schedule. One other thing. In the development project and analysis form, the contribution from both the city and the county is lumped under purpose uses for city dollars, parking deck, and public infrastructure. I'm sure I've seen that, but I'd like to see a breakdown of how much is going to the deck and how much is going into what we would consider normal city infrastructure improvements. Is there anything else any other member would like to?
I would just like to reflect that those are your comments, not mine, because some of them I do take exception to.
Okay. Well, and if we're in agreement that we can move it back to the first meeting in September, we can have that wonderful conversation.
Well,
Okay.
I'll make that motion if you want to move it back.
Okay. We have a motion to bring this to full council the 3rd of September, is that the correct date?
Yeah, without recommendation?
Without recommendation?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Right.
And
Any
I
other
I would like to ask Lee, will you please calculate what % of our employees make 20,000 or less, in 26 and less?
Okay.
Fair point.
Councilman Burke, I just wanted to, this is something I know you worked hard on, was that also one thing that we haven't said that Innovation Quarter or the Medical Center has agreed to is that 1% of the project would go to public art.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Several people in the room. Thank you.
I've been interested in public art, remember?
I do.
All right. There's a motion and a second that we will send this to council September the 3rd without a recommendation, pending additional information. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2.
Item G2, consideration of a resolution approving a small business loan for Comprises Consulting LLC.
I'll sort of kick this one off. I'm going to turn it over to Ken Millett, who works in the Community and Business Development Department, about staff support to the Small Business Loan Committee. But you all do have a Citizens Loan Committee that's appointed by the City Council. This committee meets monthly to review small business loan requests. Loans range from $10,000 up to about an average of $35,000, but can go up to $100,000. The committee is made up of representatives from business, banking, law, and there's one staff person from Community and Business Development who's the HUD rep or is most knowledgeable of those guidelines. When the committee meets, they look at the entire business plan, do a thorough review of the business plan. They look at the ability of the borrower to, it is a loan, so actually pay that loan back. They also look at the 4 C's, the character of the individual, the collateral, the cash flow or injection into that. And there's a 4th C that I always forget, but there's actually 4 C's that they look at when reviewing those small business loan requests. As part of that process, if the loan committee in fact denies a small business loan request, the borrower or the applicant has the ability to appeal to the Finance Committee. Such appeal is then considered by a Finance Committee and forwarded to the full council for consideration. The item that you have before you now is actually one of those that the loan committee, after its review, has recommended denial and is being appealed up to you all.
Good afternoon, Chairman Marshall, Mayor, council members. Mr. Page gave a background as to the loan committee and how it operates and the appeal process, so I wanted to give you just a brief summary of how we've got to this point with the applicant and the loan committee. The Small Business Loan Committee originally met with Mr. Edgar Simon, who is with Comprises Consulting LLC, which is a healthcare and general business information technology consulting company, in January of this year. He was requesting approximately $30,000 to be used for the majority of operating expenses and operating capital for the business. That is a bit different than what the committee usually sees. Funding is usually provided for equipment or construction upfit of properties. At that first meeting in January, the committee did not take a vote on the loan request, but did invite Mr. Simon back to a future meeting. At its March 20th committee meeting, Mr. Simon was again present and presented additional information that had been requested from the initial meeting to the committee. At that meeting, it had come out that he was in discussions with potential equity partners that would change the structure, or I should say could potentially change the structure of the business and perhaps its business focus as well, from healthcare to more of a general business focus for them. So noting that potential impact of organizational change, the committee again did not take a vote, but invited Mr. Simon back to present to committee when that new structure was in place. We fast forward to June 19th. And Mr. Simon again came to the loan committee meeting. This time he had a new business partner with him, Mr. Charles Joku, who's not just an employee of the business, but also an equity partner in the business. And that, one of the things noted by committee was the operational structure is more solid than before, but we're still lacking information on acquiring clients and what processes you have in place to potentially acquire these new clients. In response to that, the applicant noted that one of the things you need to have in place when you're consulting is you have to have staff on board that possesses the capabilities to provide those services to your customers. So that is one of the things that the business had really been focusing on in the subsequent months since the initial meeting. It was noted at the same meeting that while operating costs help the business in the short term, that for long-term viability, the business itself must be able to sustain its operations. That's typically why the emphasis is on equipment and construction upfit rather than operating capital. Again, in June, at that meeting, the loan committee did not take a vote, but invited Mr. Simon back to discuss the project again. Excuse me. At the July 17th meeting, Mr. Simon had requested and was granted the opportunity to present a presentation to the loan committee to outline 4 main areas. Thank you, Director. Pardon me. To address 4 main topics: the steps that Comprises had taken to acquire clients, procedures for building a professional network, structure of company management, and justification for the need of office space within the NRSA, which, as you may know, is the Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area. Mr. Simon presented a PowerPoint to the loan committee, and after the presentation and discussion, the committee voted and voted unanimously to decline the loan request. The primary reasons cited for that were that the business does not have a tangible or active client base, that the business had not identified specific prospective clients or a strategy to acquire them, that the business was not able to demonstrate the ability to successfully implement strategies that it had recommended, and that a substantial portion of the funds were to be used for operating capital. So that was the vote that was finally taken in July of this year from an initial meeting with the committee back in January. As Mr. Page outlined, there is an appeal process to handle a request from an applicant that had been declined. I did see Mr. Simon, the applicant, is here. If you have any questions for him, and Andy Dreyfus, who is the chairman of the Small Business Loan Committee, is here as well.
Okay, thank you. Would the committee care, excuse me, care to hear comments from Mr. Simon?
Yeah, I like your from both the other gentlemen too, both of them.
Okay, all right. Mr. Simon, if you'd come up and join us, and I believe that, 3 minutes? And if you would give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, Edgar Simon Jr., CEO, President and CEO of Comprise Consulting LLC, 3977 Valley Court, Unit B, Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee. I'm joined by my Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Yoku, Mr. Charles Yoku. And this company I'm a Winston-Salem State University alumnus, computer science, political science, medical analyst, executive analyst. Mr. Yoko is a operations specialist, MBA, Duke University. This company was started in June, initially incorporated June of 2012. Okay, and from June 2012 until December, myself, CEO, acquired a master's level medical analyst training, did receive master's level medical analyst training, and successfully completed that program in December. I'm giving you a timeline here, okay? Now, in January, I was busy acquiring, because we didn't want to be in a situation where our objective was to, just what the CBDG's mission is, to hire people in that specified income category and to occupy some of that space that's downtown. Okay. Now, so we want to build a sustainable business. We don't want to just build one that we could hit the ground running without an infrastructure in place. Mr. Yoku and myself set out to build a infrastructure, a sustainable business that would not only hire people, but would be able to retain those people. Okay? I understand that sometimes you start a business and we're management consultants. We know that just to have money and to open a building does not guarantee success. You have to have the infrastructure to maintain that success. So the focus was on obtaining the talent and the infrastructure required to attract more of the talent that we have, the quality of that talent, and people, and keep them in place, and so that they make even more money and pay even more taxes. So I was vetting a CFO caliber individual, CFO, CO caliber individual out of the Raleigh-Durham area. Once I completed the training, Mr. Yoku met him. So from January through April, I was vetting these heavyweights, these juggernauts, if you would. And it was very intense. Once Mr. Yoku decided to join the company on May the 1st, then I had a lion. We had a leader. We had someone who could actually help me build this company and move it forward. It took an entire month, the entire month of May, to onboard Mr. Yoku, primarily due to the strong infrastructure that's already in place. There was a lot of information to pass on to him, to hand off to him. It took an entire month. So here we are at the end of May. In June of this year, once he was fully on board and ready to help me carry this business forward, company forward, we began to say, okay, now we want to make certain that we are in business to stay. We began to tighten our, create and enhance our processes, mapping out the processes, constructing compensation plans for our sales team, developing telemarketing strategies for our telemarketing people. At the same time, I was vetting through that entire month of June, again, vetting HR, VP HR, VP Sales and Marketing. So here we are at the end of June. Everything's in place, all the process mapped. We have telemarketers on the phones, filling the pipeline. We're vetting account executives. Okay, now we're ready to not only make money, but manage that money, revenue that we bring in. And here we are. The committee did wonder, and we did respond to their questions regarding timeline. That took us all the way up to through the month of July. And it does take, we need space, office space, to continue to attract the type of talent that we are attracting. We need office space to house the telemarketers, so we can have quality telemarketers in place to provide proper training for them.
Mr. Simon, we thank you
Sure.
for the timeline. That's helpful.
Okay.
I just wondered, would you like to address my understanding is that in large part the loan committee declined it based on a lack of a client list. I believe the issue had come up in the 7 months preceding the final. Okay. Would you like to make a brief statement regarding where you are with any prospective clients?
Glad, I appreciate that. We do have a total of about 4 or 5 proposals now in the pipe. We have 10,000, we acquired a 10,000 list database that we're working, the telemarketers are working it, and we're training them. We're working that 10,000, actually 18,000 list database, and we are out the door. We are cold calling, we are on the phones, we are meeting with businesses in the Stratford Industrial Park, West Point Industrial Park.
All right, sir, and I appreciate the activity, but let me make sure I understand that the tangible results is that you have 3 clients, is that right?
3 clients. We actually have.
Is that, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Our pipeline consists of proposals. Again, we're only talking 2 or 3 weeks here. Within 2 or 3 weeks, we have about 3 or 4 proposals in the pipeline ready for signature.
Okay.
We have
But
10
I guess, Mr. Simon, I'm trying to get to give you an opportunity to address numerically, do you have a client list at this point?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm referring. Oh, you mean active
Clients,
Active
clients. I misspoke. I'm sorry, clients.
No. Within that 2 or 3 months, what we've done is we've
Yes,
actually,
no.
No, we have not got. We do have signatures.
Okay.
We don't have signatures.
Thank
2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
We
Thank you.
anticipate having those signatures within the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
I did
thank you.
respond to the city. There was a supplemental PowerPoint presentation that I want to make certain that the city did have in their possession. And that was a PowerPoint presentation entitled City of Winston-Salem CDBG Loan Request Presentation Continuation. In that, we spoke to exactly what you were asking.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get to see that?
Yes, your
You did.
PowerPoint presentation,
Right,
yes.
right here.
Thank you.
The one that has continuation on it. No, it would not be the one. This is the one that speaks directly to what you're asking, Ms. Michelle. It is
Yes, we
the
have.
Yes, we have it.
continuation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
presentation.
And it does speak to hiring HR activity. It speaks to the business list, this customer relationship tool.
All right,
It
sir.
speaks to everything that you are asking about here.
Okay, and again, we thank you. We do
Sure.
have some questions. Councilmember Burke?
Yeah, mine is not to Mr. Salmon, but we do encourage small businesses to come to us and to work with them. The chairman of this committee, where is the chairman? I believe you said the chairman was here. But the chairman come down, I just need to ask you a few questions.
Mr. Simon, we thank you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Surely.
Thank
Don't
you.
go too far, I've got a
Yeah,
question for you.
just stay in the front row, if you would.
Okay, I'll sit back here.
Andrew Dreyfus, 2711 Buena Vista Road.
All right, Mr. Drivers, what could Mr. Salmon have done to make his loan be approved?
As the question has been moving towards, a consulting business is hard to get off the ground, so you need to have an active list of clients, because clients lead to more clients and a set of referrals. So it's a chicken and egg problem that Mr. Simon has run into.
So in other words, to answer the question simply, he would have had to have a client list with your committee to look at and consider.
Yes, that would have been a very positive start.
All right. What suggestions would you make to him other than the client list? Since I know you said the client list is important. We don't want to discourage business people. I introduced them, WBE, all this that you see, I've been a part of it, and we have done a pretty good job in working with small business people. What would you recommend to him that he should do?
Right, I think Mr. Simon has done a decent job lately of gathering more partners. I think more partners earlier would have been advantageous. He needs a little more equity. We also look at these loans, we look at how much risk or equity the applicant is putting into the business, and we want to see some risk. You know, just like we heard from Wake Forest about building a parking deck, obviously not the same analogy here. But so partners earlier and a little more equity earlier would have made us more comfortable.
When they leave being rejected, do you give them any kind of, when you can come back?
We would refer them to other organizations here in town that are prepared to help them with their business plan.
Okay, the question is, do you have would I have, if I happen to be presenting something and I had been rejected, would I have the opportunity to come back to your committee again?
That would be a question, I think, for Ken or Ruben, who know our procedures a little better than I do on how that works.
All right. Thank you, Mr. I finished with you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I've got
Thank-
some questions.
Oh, you have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You,
Do you want to address Councilmember Burke's
Yeah.
question on
come on.
the process to basically reapply? What would the applicant need to do?
Councilmember Burke, for a reapplication, there is usually there needs to be established that the business plan has changed significantly, that it would not be like the committee requesting additional information and then coming back the following month. There may need to be a significant shift in the business model that would allow them to come back. If it is essentially the same business plan, then the format for coming back to committee does not really exist, that the appeal that Mr. Simon has filed with the city would be that avenue if there are no significant changes to the plan.
May I get a clear understanding of what you're saying? For instance, Mr. Simon can come back to the committee.
I think a precedent has been
I
set
hear-
that he
I
could
hear-
come back to committee if there is a significant change in the business plan or the business model. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I wanted him to say just what he said because I'm concerned. Mr. Simon has a plan. A recommendation has been given to Mr. Simon by the chairman of what he would expect. He can't come back with that same showing that he has addressed those issues.
To clarify the question, did you say he can or
Can he
can't?
or can he not?
Yes, ma'am, he can.
All right, so what Mr. Simon would do would go get his client list, and he could come back to the committee.
I believe that would be correct, yes.
All right, do you have a length of time that you would give before he could come back to the committee?
It would probably be considered a reapplication as opposed to a continuation of the current request. It would probably be a timeline along the lines of as long as it takes to update the business plan to incorporate the additional information that Mr. Simon and/or his partners may contribute to the plan.
Would you then give him consideration? Would you say we have a list and you can't come back at this time? How would you consider him again?
From the time frame, how would we consider him again? It would be considered a new application from the committee, but I think what the committee would look for would be a substantial change from the existing business model as opposed to a slight update of information to the existing business model.
Now, would Mr. Simon have an opportunity to talk to you before he goes to the committee? Would you assist him
ma'am.
in any kind of way so he will understand if he's moving in the right direction or?
Yes, ma'am. We met on many occasions prior to his going to committee this time as well.
And you would give him that same opportunity?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mayor had a comment.
Yeah, just a question, and thank you for your service as chairman of the loan committee. I know it's a lot of hours in that. I was looking through the application, I was looking at the projected balance sheet. Some extraordinary numbers are projected on there, but am I correct that the only equity proposed at this point is $900?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, but let me just finalize, go on record that, that Mr. Simon is likable, high energy, tenacious, hardworking guy. We would like to see a stronger business plan and better partners and more equity for him to be reconsidered.
Mr. Simon, this is just a comment question. First off, I am a small business owner. Yeah, come on up. The previous speaker stole my lead in. It is truly is a chicken and the egg issue. I have several extended family members that are in the consulting business. You can either be out drumming up business or doing the consulting, but you can't do both, and that's the chicken and the egg. But my comment question was, I think it's the S.G. Atkins CDC that has the building out on Martin Luther King. I don't know if you were aware of it or had met with them, but it is a business incubator. I have toured it. It is very, very nice. Now, I will say I had the 30-minute tour, not the 2-hour tour, but it's my understanding these incubators provide a lot of the services you're talking about. There's a common copier and those type things that you don't have to do all that. Have you visited that facility, and are you aware of it?
Yes, I'm very aware of it.
Okay.
As an alumnus, I did visit, and I'm quite aware of that, yes.
Okay, 'cause
It's a fine facility.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I would certainly think it might be a way of the chicken and the egg of allowing you to, And again, I don't know what specific service they offer, but my experience with incubators, a lot of them do offer in a group mode a lot of the services you need. You know, you don't need a full-time receptionist or a full-time copier, but when you need a copier, you need it. So just food for thought.
And if I may comment?
Yeah.
This company, I was a desktop publisher at one point, so I'm a veteran entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I was a desktop publisher in this city from 1995, from 92 to 95, an IT consultant from 95 to 2000. This is the third iteration of this company, the third one being the charm. We are ready to move forward. We came to the table with a plan that was referred to as a robust business plan. We were told, okay, and we were also told that the committee does not read robust business plans. Okay, so earlier someone's commented that the business plan was reviewed, but we were told that robust business plans were not reviewed. So we understand that what we have here, the very nature is complex. We understand that. And we were told that they do not read robust business plans. We came to the table with endorsements, solid endorsements from both the healthcare industry and business and IT. Okay.
Mr. Simon, we appreciate
Sure.
this.
All
Thank
right.
you very much
Good.
for your time and your input and
Sure.
clarifying your business plan.
All right, thank you.
What, Councilmember Burke, you had a
Yes,
comment?
I just want to say, this city was one of the first cities to start the incubator business down on Marshall, and we developed quite a few business people. And I want to say sometimes, and I've talked to Mr. Page about this on occasions, sometimes people want to start businesses, but they have to have something up front, money. Somebody somewhere have told, not you, Mr., and I do appreciate you, I do believe you are likable, like the chairman said, and don't give up. Come back, come back. And you're a graduate of Winston-Salem State University, and so you can go right down the street to Attorney Carol Davis has done a good job with the Simon G. Atkins. It's just a wonderful place, and you're familiar with it. But Mr. Page and I have had more than one conversation about people wanting to come do business, but they don't have any resources. And they have to have some resources. The city just can't. She wants to say something.
I know I'm just visiting.
No, we welcome your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess to Mr. Page, and with the economy the way it is this something, or this type of request, do you think we're going to be seeing these coming down the pipeline because of the way the economy is now? That people want to start businesses, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, but they don't have the resources. What are other cities in the Carolinas doing? Are they addressing these type requests, or is this just something unique what we have here? The other thing was that if we were to start thinking in the direction, just like the clawbacks and things that we put in place for the big store boxes, such as the Dells and the Caterpillars, and we've talked about this before, all of us know that, but we got to figure out a way, and I don't know how we do that. I know we don't have any money, but and I know we got community development block grant money and other things, but we've got to look now more out of the box of what we need to do to help those folks that want to become entrepreneurs and business people and contribute to our tax base. As we all said, we got the CDCs and the incubators. They've been successful. I think that's a great start, you know. But I'd like us to look at that, though. Again, what are other cities doing? Are we seeing more requests like this? And if we're seeing them like this, have we approved them based on the strength of the plan?
We'll definitely take a look at that, Councilwoman Adams. As we start transitioning more to a service economy, I think you're going to see these type of requests. The program traditionally has been built upon either a product or a service that was construction that needed equipment, such that we had some tangible collateral that we were able to attach our dollars to. For this type, where you don't have that tangible collateral, it is a greater risk to the city's resources. And I think that's one of the things that the committee is concerned about, even if Mr. Simon is able to come back with the additional information, there's still the issue of 60% of the funding being requested is going to non-tangible type of uses. So we can definitely take a look into what other communities are doing, and if that's the type of exposure that the council wants to sort of direct us in that direction, we'd be more than happy to make changes to our program as well.
And I want Mr. Simon to know that I can commend you for your vision of this business. I have several friends in the Washington, D.C., Virginia area that have already done this already. And from what I'm hearing, and we all know this is where healthcare and everything is going to go. There will be consultants and groups and whatever in between us to help us get the best price for our healthcare dollars and that sort of thing. So I commend you on that initiative.
Mr. Simon, we thank you. In the interest of time, what I think I hear from the committee is, number one, thank you, and thank the committee. But from this, Mr. Simon, thank you. What I think I hear from the committee is a support of the loan committee on this package as it is currently structured. But I think I hear from the committee words of encouragement and also asking that if you have any questions about what would constitute a significant change in the package, please to contact city staff, either Ken or Mr. Page, and to try and work through to address those particular issues in the identified weaknesses in the package and try to bring it back. Is that what I heard primarily? Ms. Burton? Okay, all right. Sir, if you have any questions, you can direct it to staff. We're going to go on now to item number, and I'd like to ask the committee to indulge me. Let me ask staff on number 3, is this time sensitive? If it is, we can certainly look at it, but what I'd like to ask of the committee is that we go to item number 4 and then come back to 3 if need be. Mr. City Manager, is number 3 time sensitive?
I think we can, 1 month will not make any difference.
And certainly if we have time, we can tack it on.
And keep in mind, Reverend Bass is here from
That is
that
true, he is here.
racism dismantling group.
That's
He's
right.
sitting
I'm sorry, I
here.
didn't see.
They're here too.
Okay. Mr. Reverend Bass, I didn't see you. Okay. Item G3, because I suspect this can go quickly.
Yeah, let's-
Item G3, ordinance amending the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the fiscal year 2013-2014, Institute for Dismantling Racism.
Okay. Evan, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Marshall, Mayor Joines, and members of the committee. If you'll remember, during the budget process, the Institute for Dismantling Racism came forward with a request for funding in the amount of $60,000, and that item was not approved. But at that particular point in time, staff was directed to explore other alternatives for partnerships and other funding alternatives as we moved forward in this fiscal year. So in accordance with that request, staff has identified $20,000 in contingency funds to support a partnership with IDR. A portion of that funding will be used to fund the attendance of 5 city employees at an upcoming IDR-sponsored sensitivity training session. I believe that's scheduled for September. And IDR has partnered with the city since, I think, since 2004, and the city has sent a total of 73 or 74 employees to this particular training since 2004. Now, Reverend Bass is here. He's the executive director of IDR to answer any questions that you may have, and I think he's got support staff with him as well.
Okay. Thank you. I just asked the committee.
I want me to move for approval.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm going to move for approval because we've had quite a discussion concerning this matter.
We did through the budget process. Is there a second?
I didn't get allowed to ask any questions.
Well, you can put a motion and then ask
We could
questions.
do that.
If you don't want it, you can.
That's okay.
Because I had some questions I think I have a right to ask.
All right. Evan, thank you.
Yes.
Reverend Bass, if you would mind coming up and giving us your name and address.
Madam
Uh-huh.
Procedure Attorney.
I was going to say, all I think is being asked for is a second for the motion to have a discussion.
But we know how sensitive he is.
Well, no, the motion,
We're
the
just
motion was what was the motion again?
I was voting for it. They said we were moving with time, and we've already had that discussion.
The motion was to approve it.
Yeah.
And then you get a second, and you have a discussion on it, but that's fine.
What we do.
Yeah,
I mean, I
That's
don't even know if I'm
okay.
in favor of it yet.
you can hold
okay,
down.
all right. Let me get control here again. Reverend Bass, thank you for being with us
Thank
this
you for having
afternoon.
me.
We thank you.
My
Will you
name's
give
Willis.
us your name and address for the record, and then I think we have some possible questions for you.
It's Willard Bass, 3412 Millhaven Road, Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
And I do not think it is unreasonable to ask your questions before you're asked to endorse a motion. Thank you. My questions are, part of the money is going to pay for the fee for 5 employees to attend a 2.5-day seminar. What is the fee for that seminar?
About $350 per person.
$350 per person. And also 73 employees have attended, or
Over-
approximately 73, whatever the
Right.
number is, over the years since '04.
Right.
What has been the fees for those employees?
It's been about the same, I believe, over
Right.
the years.
The 350 is a good number to use?
Right.
I'm trying to do this in my head. That's,
We've had some increases that start out about 300 and then have gone up over the last 10 years.
bear with me one second.
You need a calculator.
It's about $17,000 is what we have spent so far. That's all for now.
Okay, Mayor?
I just was going to thank Reverend Bass for his patience with us, and this is a project I know that several of us were interested in. We asked the city manager to look at after the budget, and so I'm just very supportive of this project.
Thank you. Questions or comments during the question and comment period? Councilmember?
Mr. Clark has closed down my house. May I make a motion now?
I believe we're still
My
in the.
questions have been asked.
Okay.
Can we just go ahead and get a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
Because typically, we do the motion, get a second, have discussion, then you vote. Go ahead.
We do, but again, Robert's just real sensitive.
Madam, may I make the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we gonna be here all day and
No,
really?
we're not. Yes, we would welcome a motion.
Madam, I move for the approval of this item.
Is
Sir.
there a second?
Not for me.
I will second the motion.
Okay.
Okay, now, additional questions and comments on this item before we have a vote of the committee members. Derwin.
This comment in regards to the Institute for Dismantling Racism, likewise the mayor, in terms of supporting of this item. When we were in the process of doing budget, we did have a conversation and direction about how we can include some of what the Institute does in community, particularly realizing that we still have major issues in community in trying to talk through and have dialogue around racial issues and racial tensions within our own community, that this institute brings that opportunity to continue carrying on that dialogue along with other resources that we have in this community. So I think it's essential to be able to have support on issues like this as a city and as a city council. And also, we're going to dive into particulars of dollars that we spend with every organization in fees. I'm going to ask that we bring that for every organization that we spend dollars to, if that's going to be a subject of conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
And I am going to ask committee members if we can keep our comments out of respect for the 5:30
Got it.
and the 2 remaining agenda items.
Got it. The 74 city employees that have gone through this, we did say 74, right?
Yes.
74. I'm just interested in what the timeline was, what kind of feedback, what kind of proactivity we got. I mean, out of these 74 people, were they police, were they firemen? Have we had any issues with them? We don't need any names. We just need to know if this is a good thing. Data. I know it is, but you need something to quantify it.
Need a proof source on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. City Manager?
I don't have the data in front of me, Councilman Adams, but I can tell you I was in the first or second class that the city went to. It is by far the best diversity training I've ever attended. But that is just a small part of what IDR does, in my opinion. They partner with that training, and we send 5 to 10 employees a year. A lot of them have been, about half of them in the police department. a lot of leadership employees from departments throughout city government have been as well. But IDR is much broader than that. They do community caucuses, which are strong dialogues monthly about those institutional issues. But in addition to that, Reverend Bass has been just a very strong partner with me in the community, and when issues percolate that we need to deal with before they become a problem, he has always, and his organization have always stepped up to assist the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
I was going to mention that I guess the mayor's the only one who's sitting here can verify that we have had tremendous racial problems in this city. And Mayor Corponing was the first mayor to step up and admit that there were problems with races in this community. And we have done different things by appointing blue ribbon committees to work and to get us through some of these conditions. And we can tell you, as Chairman of Public Safety, the behavior of our police, how they treated each other, black and white, was really shameful. But in working through with them, when you look at our police department today, how they respect each other, how they work together, it's been a change. And I want you to know, when we discussed this matter at our budget meeting, that same week, Ms. Evers was on television, and she said, it's been 50 years, but we still have racism in this country. And we still have it. And because some of these people in Winston-Salem, as I've said through the years, when we talk about the majority of people, those with the open minds who want to live in a city that we can be safe and comfortable, they articulate concerns to their friends and associates, and of course minorities who want the same thing. We come together and we talk because we've invested too much in Winston-Salem. We try to encourage businesses to come to this city, and we would rather have peace and harmony. So I commend you. That's why I have moved forward with this, Reverend Bass.
Thank you.
And your committee and the people who work with you. And I also agree with the city manager, knowing many times he has to go and call on others for us to have a wonderful city to live in.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. I would offer the committee an alternative, since there was some request for some information. And I feel as if I may have prompted the committee to rush through this item, and for that I apologize. And we certainly, if Councilmember Burke is willing to withdraw that motion, we can keep it in committee, or we can vote on the motion and send it on to full council. I guess it would be my preference, after hearing the comments, that we would allow Councilmember Clark some time to get his questions answered, and then come back and have that, hopefully, a more unanimous consensus built on the item. I think we all value what you do and understand that we need more of that, not less of that. So I think it's just a question of information. It's certainly not questioning the value of your program. But I will leave that to, or we can have the vote and see where we are.
I tell you, we'll just go on and have the vote. We either gonna have it, he's been here,
Okay.
and let's just move. And we come to the to the council.
Okay.
We would decide.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. All those in favor of council members, of committee members only, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Abstaining.
So we have 2 in favor, 1 abstaining, 1 absent. So it's going to go to the full council with kind of a split decision, if you will, but it will be on the general agenda on Monday.
Hey, Madam, I just want to say the mayor can speak for himself. He too knows how many times he's had to call, and that's why you hear him up here. All he wants for this city is for us to know how to get along. And when he goes out trying to get businesses to come here, he wants to be able to say, we are a peaceful city and we can work together. That's all.
And we very much appreciate your time, and hope you will join us Monday.
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 4.
Item G4, Proposed Downtown Business Improvement District Report.
Mr. Bow, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Marshall, Mayor Joines, members of the City Council.
think in the interest of time, I'm just going to hit on a couple of major points about the Business Improvement District proposal. Last month, the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership made a presentation about a proposed downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District. With us today, Mark Dunnigan, the chair of the partnership, Jason Field, the president of the partnership, Ralph Wumble, who's been very much involved in the development of the proposal, and Gail Anderson, who's the president CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. So they presented the need for the district. I want to just touch on a couple of the aspects of the report to kind of flesh out some of the details, mainly the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Committee, and then also some more about the funding, how the services would be funded and delivered.
Can everybody hear Ben?
Better? Not so. How about that?
A little bit better. Can everyone in the chamber hear Ben? Betsy, can you hear him back there? Okay, okay, thank you. Just, it must be me.
Okay, first thing, just wanted to revisit very quickly the map, the proposed map, and that's on slide 5 of the presentation. The Business Improvement District is bounded by Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to the north, Church Street to the west, Business 40 to the south, and then Broad Street to the west. It does include a number of the districts that have been identified in the downtown plan. It does exclude historic residential neighborhoods like Holly Avenue and the West End. So to move on to slide number 9 and kind of talk about the governance structure here that is described in the report. First of all, the City Council's role in this. Number one, the City Council would approve the advisory committee. The advisory committee would be a committee of the city. The council would set the bid tax rate. It would approve the budget during our budget process, and it would approve the service contract with the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership. The assumption being that the partnership would provide the services for the Business Improvement District, but the council would approve that contract, so it would be a contract between the city and the partnership. The role of the Business Improvement District Advisory Committee would be to prepare the annual work plan, the services that would be provided, and Mr. Dungan described those last month, the 5 services, the service areas that the district would focus on. The committee would also recommend the annual budget and then provide the financial program and staff oversight as they implement the work plan. And then finally, the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership would actually implement the work plan. They would be the organization responsible for the day-to-day delivery of services, of the enhanced services in the Business Improvement District. They would coordinate with the city, other government agencies, and private agencies. They would be the daily point of contact. So to talk a little bit about the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Committee, as I mentioned, it would be appointed by the City Council upon the recommendation of the mayor. Right now, the proposal is would be an 11-person committee, 9 voting members, and 2 ex officio members, the city manager or his designee, and a financial professional. The other representatives really represent a cross-section of stakeholder categories. They're not all members of the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership necessarily, but they represent various stakeholders: a downtown resident, a retail establishment, restaurant owner or manager, hotel, real estate developer, a large property owner, and then there would be representation of the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership on this committee. The members would serve a maximum of 2 3-year terms. They would meet at least quarterly. They would provide quarterly reports to the City Council, including the minutes from their meetings and also regular financial statements. And there would be an audit done at the end of the fiscal year to ensure the funds were spent as designated. So that's a very quick overview of the Business Improvement District Advisory Committee. Talk a little bit about the assessment and the funding. The tax office looked at the data and gave us some updated numbers, and so based on our 2013 valuations, the proposed district is valued at $533 million. At a proposed tax rate of 9 cents, that would generate estimated revenue of $468,000. That assumes a certain collection rate. So on that last slide, last table there on page 12, you can see what the annual, monthly, and daily cost would be for various types of property owners. So
So $468,000, those revenues we're proposing would be accounted for in a city special revenue fund, would be dispersed to the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership on a quarterly basis. And then at the end of the fiscal year, any unspent tax revenues would remain within that city special revenue tax fund and would be available for future appropriation by the city council. And then here's just the breakdown of that $468,000. That's really based on the percentages that the partnership provided last month. The two biggest parts of that would be the cleaner environment and increased safety and security. And then the next two pieces would be stronger marketing and promotion, accelerated development, and then finally enhanced physical appearance. So just lastly, just to very quickly give you some general next steps. If the city council accepts the staff report, the one that's required by state law, then the next step would be to set a date for a public hearing on the creation of the bid. We would then mail notices of the public hearing to the property owners within the proposed district 4 weeks prior to the hearing, then provide an additional, at least one additional public notice of the hearing. And if it is approved during this fiscal year, then the district would go into effect July 1st of 2014. It would be part of the 14-15 fiscal year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Questions of Ben? I'm going to go here to the committee. Robert, and then I'll come back to you.
First off, is it a yearly appropriation, or is it once you do it, it's done?
It would be something that would be adopted every year as part of the budget. Okay. The rate would be set in the budget. Approved.
So if we tried it a few years and didn't like it, you could always do away with it?
Correct.
Okay. Secondly, I know this was brought up because I know there were some public meetings held at the Aperture, I believe. Are we going to notify the owners or the renters? Because I think some of the renters had expressed concern because they're the ones that pay the bills.
Well, state law requires us, notifying the property owners. I'm not sure if we would take an additional step. I would defer to Mr. Dunnigan or Jason to respond to that.
Mr. Dunnigan, would you like to come up and address that, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Barely, but it must be me.
No, no.
Okay.
I don't think those mics are working.
Okay.
And if you would, give us your name and address for the record.
Mark Dunnigan, 1260 Yorkshire Road, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I believe by statute, we would notify all the property owners, which we would hope in turn would notify the renters. Certainly, we have the database of renters at the Downtown Partnership, and we have no problem with alerting them to the upcoming public hearing as well.
Yeah, thank you. Third question, and I think you've answered this, I just want to be sure I understand it. This committee will actually be working hands-on. For example, if they want a contract for someone to sweep the street, they'll be involved in that. So there's not a question of, well, where did the money go to? This committee is going to have direct hands-on impact on that.
That's correct. That's my understanding, that they would be developing the work plan, and then the partnership staff would be actually implementing the work plan, negotiating the contracts, that type of
Okay,
type of
all
work.
right. And then the last one, and I know, and it may be in here, but at the last meeting or last presentation, you had a listing, a partial listing of folks that had endorsed it. In the end, that would be important, how many owners do endorse it. This is probably the first time in the history of mankind someone's actually asked for a tax increase. So I just want to be sure that it is widely endorsed. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, if you just stay there, Mark.
No, this is an observation. I was downtown today with someone, and I said, look how nice our downtown looks. And I know we've made big investments, private business, the city of Winston-Salem. And to keep our downtown clean like it is, we're doing a good job, the city, to keep it safe like it is. We're going to grow some more, and I feel that the businesses want protection. They want it to continue to be attractive. And I just feel, I know we're going to have some public hearings, so I'm not saying trying to vote today, but I think you've done a good job. And I appreciate your service. And Mr. Jason Till, he has worked faithfully, and Ralph Womble, to make downtown livable. And it takes all of us. It takes all of us. The city, us 9 cannot do it alone. And we have partners. It makes a difference. And I want to just thank you for what you've done.
Thank you.
Derwin, you had a comment?
Yeah, couple questions,
Okay.
just that was on the presentation. It was in regards to the appointment for the advisory committee, specific to the city manager or appointee position there. Would that be exempt from the term limits? I'm just saying that would need to be explicit, that role would be exempt from
We would
whatever
have-
term limit.
We'd have to amend the city ordinance to indicate that that would be a commission or board that's exempt from the term limits.
I was saying the city manager position or designee.
Oh, no, you wouldn't have to
Oh,
do
you
that
wouldn't
for his,
Okay, that was just a question on that. Now, the future appropriations that, in terms of dollars that may not be spent and say will be kept for future appropriations, that would be restricted to the bid area?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear as well. Those were the only two questions I had about that, but I think that echoing other comments I've made, I think the process that we've gone through so far has been very effective, engaging property owners and getting the support of large property owners in downtown along with the others, I think is going to be what makes this successful, and appreciate all who've been a part of it.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. All right, thank you both. Ben, let me make sure I understand that we're being asked now to sort of say, yes, we would like to take the next step. Is that what's being asked of us today?
If you choose, we're prepared to provide a resolution at next Monday's meeting that would basically accept the report and also set the date for the
Okay.
public hearing.
Are there any other questions or additional information needs that would prevent us from doing that? Okay, I think that's what we'd like to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilmember Marshall, I do have one question, if I may.
Okay.
Just in terms of the notification, the statute does speak to owners. Were they indicating a willingness to provide notices to the tenants as well, in addition to the language in the statute?
Yes, ma'am. We'll make available all of our records for the renters.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Does that clarify? Mr. Rowell, because I know this is coming basically out of your department, and we thank you for your hard work. Any other questions we should ask, or any other direction we need to give on it?
I think at this point, no. I mean, if you have any additional questions between now and Monday, please contact our office. I have Mr. Steve Harverlick now in our office. He's kind of become the resident expert on it, so we can certainly get you more information if you need it.
Okay, thank you. As Councilmember Burke indicated, it takes really a lot of different people. And I see people associated with this project kind of scattered through the chamber. Could y'all just stand up so we could see you and thank you for your time and talent and investment here? We thank you. Thank you very much. Mary Charlotte, I don't believe you stood up. All right, okay, all right. All right, thank you. Then we are
Almost.
number 5, and out of respect to the Public Safety Committee, let me go back and see what number 5 is. Revenue Billing Collections Compliance. Ooh.
Madam Chairman, can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
We have gotten, aren't you from the accountant that did this?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I recognized you from, this is the same company that does our audit.
Correct.
We do have a lot of stuff to read here, if I might suggest, given the time that this allows us to read it and come back next month. I know you had to drive from Raleigh here.
Is it Raleigh or Greensboro? Is it Raleigh? Lisa, I'm sorry, our new CFO, would you like to come to the podium and we will direct those questions to you?
You've got 2 presentations at your table. Well, the presentation actually, which is really just an executive summary that you can flip through very quickly. And then there actually is the report from Cherry Beckert. Eddie Burke is here today. If you would like him to present, he's going to tell you that the city is in compliance with all federal, state, city ordinance for revenue and billing collections. There are some management recommendations that are very minor, but he's basically going to tell you we're in compliance.
So is that agreeable to give us some time to look at the information? To thank the representatives from Cherry Bark Carton. If we have any questions, we would just direct them to our new CFO.
You sure can.
And
I'd
we
be glad
could
to meet with
respond,
any of
and you
you.
could respond.
That'd be
Is that
great.
agreeable with the committee?
That's fine.
Members? Okay. Lisa, thank you.
All right,
Thank you
thank you.
very much. And we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Is there any other items for the good of the group? If not, we're adjourned.